Hi there everyone, this is Laura from Virtual Tarot School and LearnTarotEasily.com. Thank you for joining us for what I'm hoping is going to be your first of 10 parts that I've decided to film. Today is January 21st, I believe, of 2012. And over the next week and a half, I'm going to film 10 little mini trainings for you guys. Each one of them is going to be on a different one of my top 10 favorite tarot spreads and tarot layouts. And I've had a lot of interest in different layouts from my students at Virtual Tarot School, so I thought this would be a nice little present for them and for you guys. So thanks for joining me today. The card spread that we're going to focus on today is the 10 card spread that most of you know of as the Celtic cross spread. The Celtic cross spread I've heard before has been traced back to Ireland and is one of the oldest known and recognized tarot spreads in the world. It's certainly my favorite. It's always my number one spread that I go to when I'm doing readings, simply because it's a spread that gives you so much information. It may not be the best spread to lay out for a simple yes and no question, but if you have a huge issue that you'd like to know more about, or if you have a client in that is just asking a ton of questions and doesn't really know where to focus in on, a Celtic cross spread is a wonderful spread to do to start out a session on, because it just gives you so much information. There's 10 cards in the spread. And so the first thing I'm going to do here with this spread for you is I'm going to show you how I lay out the cards. Now, other people might lay them out slightly differently, but I lay out the cards in the following sequence that I'll show you, and I do like a little rhyme as I lay them out. So I'm going to kind of say that as you see me lay the cards out here. And after I've said it once, I'll then go back over each of those individual cards again and sort of key you in a little bit more on the position that that card represents in the reading. So here we go. Here's the first card, and as I lay these cards down, this is what I say. This is for you and all that you are. This is what crosses you. This is above you. This is below you. This is your near past. This is your near future. This is your attitude, your environment, your hopes, dreams, and fears, and your outcome. So that's just what I say as I lay the cards down. And now I'm going to go ahead and go back through them all, and I'm going to give you a little bit more information about each card. So this first one, this is for you and all that you are, is sort of the central card of the entire reading. And it pertains really to you and the all you are, but it really pertains to the querent and where they stand with the question and everything that's going on in their life. The entire life situation that surrounds them at the moment is sort of encapsulated in the energy of this first card. The second card, the This Is What Crosses You card, is sort of the bridge they are crossing from where they are in their lives. This is kind of the next step, or the bridge that they're crossing over. So it represents, what they might be transitioning through, or what's currently come up as something that they're facing or having to overcome as an obstacle sometimes. All of those types of issues are brought up in this second card, which I call This Is What Crosses You. This third card, the card where I say this is above you, actually to me represents the absolute present moment for the querent, the thing that is up immediately now, which might be different from the all-encompassing issue, right? So this is sort of the thing that's really up at the present moment for the querent. This card down here, the This Is Below You card, represents sort of a root issue that all of this stuff going on in the reading may have grown out of. Sometimes, if this is a very broad reading, this can be a root family issue or a family pattern, or someone who's been present in their past for such a long period of time that they're kind of really feeding the energy of the reading here. And if it's sort of a shorter breadth of time, this can very simply be, what has really been sort of the root or source of the issue that is carrying on through the reading, the root card. This is below you. The near past card, seems pretty simple at first. Obviously this is the near past, but what is the near past, right? And, really and truly, this is a point where I usually check in with the querent with this card's energy. And I kind of just ask them what the near past feels like for them. For some people, this feels like, the near past feels like maybe the last 2 or 3 days. Maybe the near past of the issue that's coming up in the reading is more like the last year. If you're doing a life reading as a 10 card spread reading for, an 80-year-old, maybe the near past is the last 15 years, it's all very relative. So, especially if you're reading for someone that you don't know that much about the issue, just asking them how long the energy of the near past card feels like it's been carrying on can give you a ton of information as sort of as it pertains to sort of the breadth and the longevity of the issue that you're reading about. And just so you know, whatever kind of time frame you end up agreeing on as being represented as the near past, you can sort of carry that same amount of time, that same frame of time forward into the near future. And usually those two cards, the near past and near future, sort of mirror each other as far as the breadth of time goes. So, whatever period of time the near past card feels like it's represented for the querent in the reading, you can almost be certain that the near future card represents a similar lapse of time moving forward into the future. So in that way you can sort of give them a little bit of a prediction about the length of time into the near future that they're going to see the energy of the near future card holds true for them. This card down here, that this is your attitude card, is how I best describe this is, yes, this is the attitude that the querent is taking towards this overall situation that is, described in the 10 card reading. Another way of describing the attitude card is it's sometimes sort of the lens that they're filtering everything through, sort of their eyes, their lens, their attitude on this situation that you're reading about really frames how they're seeing it. It's almost how they're coloring it, So their attitude card can be described that way. I also tend to liken it, if we have any viewers who are sort of versed in astrology, you might also see the attitude card as very similar to how you would view an ascendant sign in astrology. So I've always been told that the ascendant sign is, again, sort of the sign that things are filtered through, the sort of the persona that things are acting out through, So in that way, the attitude card can sort of be likened to a rising sign or an ascendant in astrology. The environment card, pretty straightforward. It's the environment that this whole situation is living on outside of the querent. The people, the surroundings, the environment that they are living in and surrounded by. This card really describes a lot of that environmental factor. Card 9, that this is your hopes, dreams and fears card, can be a little bit confusing for some people because, after all, how often do you see hopes, dreams and fears represented in one place? But what I always tell people here is, really and truly this is human nature. What we desire most in life is very, very often what we're also the most scared of, right? It's like that Joseph Campbell quote, the cave that you fear to enter, it holds the treasure you seek. That is really kind of the energy of this card. Yes, it is your hopes, dreams, and fears, and it very often those things are all two sides of the same coin, the same major issue. Very often in readings where people aren't clear on how they might be sabotaging themselves or what they're actually very scared of, but they're also hoping for, but they're scared of, this card is a very common one for being reversed for that reason. And often as well, when I start addressing this card in the reading, when I start talking about this card to the querent, I make it very, very clear to them that I'm not saying that they in particular are sabotaging themselves in any way. I make it very clear that this is a universal position for this card, that this is what card 9 represents for everyone, not just for them. I'm not like picking on them and saying, oh, well, you're actually sabotaging yourself here because, you're so scared of what you actually want to see come to fruition. When I address that this issue is up for them, I make very, very clear that this is an insight that is always in this position for everyone, because that's just human nature. That's just what we all do. It's an important one to sort of clarify in that way for the querent, because it is one that can really touch very clearly on, that this could be a problem. So to, just kind of prevent them feeling like you're putting them on the spot too much, or really, picking on them. That's kind of the thing that I always, just be sure to verify and ascertain for them. And then card 10, very simply, is the outcome card, which is pretty self-explanatory. So I'm not going to go too much into that. A few things about the Celtic cross that I think are the most common questions I get asked. Do I always pick the cards, after I feel like the deck is shuffled from, card 1 through 10, top down in a sequence? Not always. Sometimes I'll lay the cards out sort of in a fan at the top of the table, and I'll have the querent or myself or both put our hands over the cards and feel which cards want to come out. And sometimes if the querent is picking them a little more randomly like that, I'll just ask them to name a number that comes to mind as they pick up that card, and then I'll put the cards down according to what number the querent has said that card is. So do I always read them sequentially? Do I always pick them up and turn them down sequentially? No. I mean, you can really play with the way of shuffling these cards that feels best for you. Another thing that is really cool to look at, well, a few things really that are really cool to look at when you have as many as 10 cards in a spread. You can look for patterns, right? You can look throughout this entire reading and see if you see a number come up a few times. And if you see the number 2 or whatever come up a few times, you might just be given a heads up by that number's frequency and pattern in the reading that perhaps, the querent's reading has something very heavily to do with that number that is repeating itself. Same with court cards or whatever. If you see a few kings or a few knights come up in the reading, for instance, just flag that as something that might be a theme throughout the reading that you might want to speak to. Same can hold true when you have 10 cards. You can look to see what suits are prevalent, or what suits are predominant, or what suits are conspicuous by their absence, and you can sort of talk about why that might be. And the other thing that I find very interesting when I do a 10-card reading is I really look to where the reversed cards are in the reading. And I find that if I can speak to the querent about how it might be possible to turn one of those reversed cards around, to sort of manifest it in a more positive light, or to really bring that card's energy to fruition in an upright energy, that's kind of just how I speak about reverse cards in general, is how can we turn this card upright. And if I can find out how to turn one card upright in the reading, very often it seems energetically like that reversed card may in a way be tied to the other reversed cards in the reading. So in like if we can figure out how to turn one card the right way up, it's almost like we've kind of got the key there that will then enable the other cards to turn upright, if that makes sense. So I always look to see where that key card is in the reading, that I can really talk to the querent about how to turn upright. The other really cool thing about speaking about reversed cards turning upright in a reading is it really gives you something to suggest to the querent as a takeaway or something to do. And that's really important. It's all very well to sit there in a reading and tell people, what their destiny is, for instance. But very often I find most of the people I read for want to know what they can do about something. So reverse cards are very handy for that. So that in a nutshell is, the most prevalent pointers that I wanted to point out to you guys about the 10 card spread. I hope that's been helpful for you. Thank you so much for joining me. And just if you haven't already opted in, if you've just happened across this video online somewhere and you haven't already gone to learntaroteasily.com and opted in, I encourage you to do this, because this is actually one of 10 new tarot layouts mini trainings that I'm going to be giving this month. And if you opt in, you'll ensure that they're all sent to you in sequence. And then, if you've enjoyed this and you want to unpack the world of tarot and tarot lessons a little more, you can always visit my more immersive tarot trainings on virtualtarotschool.com, where I have a couple of courses there up for sale. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll see you guys next time.